think. Hello, welcome again. Thank you for being here. Um, I am excited about this topic because I think mindset matters. And as consultants, we go into a lot of different environments, and those environments have lots of different personalities. Judith, you mentioned that you work with family home, and family home providers have a lot of different personalities, and our parents have a lot. So go understanding this, and I tried to throw in some new research. I'm working on my PhD right now in early childhood education and leadership and advocacy. I'm focusing right now on infant toddlers, so I'm constantly reading stuff. So a little bit about me. I started out as a teacher's aide. I worked with autistic children while I was in college. It paid for my college because it was a university program. I thought I was going to be a lawyer, but I ended up in the early childhood sector. These are my kiddos when I started my nonprofit. So I was a director at two different programs, one in Alabama, one in Texas. I did work for corporate America for a little while when my husband started his business to sustain the family. But I started my nonprofit, Be the Seed of Change, in 2007, and then helped Cheryl and some of the other ladies with our Tech-Ins network to help consultants across the state and help directors be able to find resources across the state in this work. This is my ongoing joke whenever I start trainings. I say my husband loves this picture because he's on a hill, but the reality is, and that's not a really good representation, but he's shorter than all of us. My daughter is even taller than him nowadays. So that's just a little bit about me. Today, our learning objectives will be, we're going to talk about growth and fixed mindset, talk about the theory of change. So when we're working with our different teachers and directors and parents, ways that we can help motivate them to change, and then identifying one of these goals that we're going to try to implement in the coming week. So tell me, we kind of already introduced ourselves, Judith, and Cheryl, I know has to get back to work, but when you saw this topic, if you had any burning questions.
No, not really. I found it pretty interesting when I read the description.
All right. Well, I like I said, I think our brain is amazing. When we think about mindset, it's kind of what we do, how we establish it. We each have a mindset. It's how we perceive the world. We have a worldview. It's our culture. It's our values. It's our family. All that kind of goes into the way we think and the way we think about things and our opinions. So that's basically mindset. I'm going to show this short little video about Carol, the founder of growth and the difference between growth and fixed mindset.
Do you have a growth mindset? How do you think of intelligence? Do you think you're born with a certain level of intelligence that you can't change much? Or do you think it's something you can work on to develop and grow? Many students think that their level of intelligence is fixed, that they can't do much to change it. This can lead them to feeling that they just aren't smart enough to succeed, especially when courses get more challenging. But what if you knew that no matter who you are, through effort and effective strategies, you can develop your level of intelligence? According to Stanford University psychologist Carol Dweck, how we think about our brains actually affects how well we learn. Dweck says that people generally think with one of two different mindsets, a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. People with a fixed mindset believe that their intelligence is fixed at birth and they can't do much to change it. People with a growth mindset believe that their talents, abilities, and intelligence can be developed in different ways. And you may feel like you have a fixed mindset in some ways and a growth mindset in others. For example, you may think with a fixed mindset that you're just not a math person, but you may adopt a growth mindset with writing, music, sports, or another discipline. In fact, scientists who study the brain have found that the brain is like a muscle. It changes and grows in response to what we do. The harder we work using helpful strategies and the more challenges we face, the stronger and smarter the brain becomes. This is because the brain is made up of cells called neurons, which are connected to each other. As we learn, the number of connections between our neurons also grows. As we continue to exercise our brains, the connections between our neurons grow as well. These new and stronger connections help to make us smarter. Scientists call this concept neuroplasticity. Research shows that students who adopt a growth mindset, who believe that their brains can grow and develop through effort and challenges, actually do better in school. For these students, the goal is not to prove what they already know, but rather to learn and grow. Students with a growth mindset view challenges and mistakes not as proof that they aren't smart enough, but as opportunities to become smarter. The good news is that you can develop a growth mindset. You've taken the first step by learning about some of the science that shows you can grow your brain. The next step is to consider your mindset. If you have some areas in which you think you aren't smart, challenge yourself to learn and grow. Why should you bother? Because if you learn to develop your mindset, you'll persist longer with problems. You'll take on harder challenges and stretch your mental muscle more. You won't be as affected by setbacks, and in the end, you'll learn more. And the effects of changing your mindset can stick with you for years, since you're training your brain to think in a new way.
And that's from the Pearson. It's a YouTube video, but it's from the Pearson. I actually did a training this morning and they had that video in it, so I stole it. Because I love when I don't have to talk as much, but I just felt like they did a really good job of explaining the difference between the growth and the fixed mindset. And I love this topic. Like you said, you saw it and you just thought, hey, like this is something, because we work with so many different people. And most of us that are leaders, are consultants, who have ran programs, we're entrepreneurs and we naturally have this growth mindset. But then when we get into this other role we're in and we're trying to work with people, we run into people with fixed mindsets, that they believe that this is how I am. I'm not flexible. The parents need to understand, like, I'm rigid and this is how things are going to go. I always take a deep breath and I realize we have to help them and work with them to help them see, because I can't imagine a world where someone doesn't understand the power of yet. So that's Carol DeWitt. She's the one that embraced this growth and fixed mindset. And that's one of her sayings, is the power of yet. Not to say no, or you can't do it. It's you just can't do it yet. And that's a phrase that she talks about using with children, especially because also when we go into consult, a lot of times we're modeling or coaching the teachers and showing them this is how quality interactions look. This is how we should be doing it. And always emphasizing to the children, just not yet. We're going to be able to do it. So this is from the Harvard Business School, and this is for their School for Entrepreneurs. And this is actually brain research where they scan the brain and they show the different areas of the brain that worked for people with a growth versus fixed mindset. And I think it's just amazing. So people with that fixed mindset, it's not just, I can't, I don't want to learn. It's also when there's a challenge, they avoid it. So they're not going to look at conflict as an opportunity to learn. They're also going to, excuse me, I don't really drink soda, and my daughter gave me a soda for lunch. They're also not going to accept their own mistakes or take criticism well. So thinking about, I mean, obviously we need to give feedback, especially in our role as consultants, and helping them. And so understanding it's not personal about us giving that feedback, it's because they have this fixed mindset. And then the whole thing about talent. To me, this is one that it makes me sad. Now that we know about neuroplasticity and the brain development, is we can all be talented in different things. Just because the training I mentioned this morning, we did the two truths and a lie as the icebreaker. And one of two of the people in the training said they were musical. And I always wished I was musical. And I realized as I was saying that it was a very fixed mindset, because I could be if I put the time in and practiced and really develop that skill. I love to listen to music. And so I'll just attribute that to my musical ability. I don't know if I'll ever be able to play an instrument, but we can't get stuck in that. And if you remember the video, it also said, sometimes we have fixed and growth mindsets about different things. Like I have some political beliefs that I have a very fixed mindset on. And I don't know if they could ever change. But most other things I feel like in life, I have a growth mindset on, because I feel like we're all evolving and learning. And then the last thing here to know when we're working with people with this fixed mindset is they don't like change. Like when we are coming in with all these great ideas of how they can do their classroom or their program, they're going to be like garlic and we're the vampire. They're going to be running away from us because the idea of that just is very uncomfortable for them. So these are things that we see. I love this. This is 6 blind men. Have you seen this before? So the problem with the mind, our mindsets, is these are 6 blind men, and these are all their different perspectives or what they believe they're feeling. So the first one on the left, it's a spear. He's feeling the horns of the elephant. The one down feeling the nose, he says it's a snake. The one on the top that feels the wind of the ears, it's a fan, and so on. And so even though we all are seeing things differently and how we perceive them differently in life, we all bring value. And so that's the biggest thing, is just because I believe I have a growth mindset in most things doesn't mean I shouldn't be open to hearing someone else's point of view. The biggest thing about how having the fixed mindset affects us is through our achievement. So again, some of these are similar to the other slide from the Harvard for business for entrepreneurs, but there's a few other ones. The one that I noticed here was effort. Sorry, my T got pushed down when I was reformatting. So if you have a growth mindset, you're going to try to master things. I always say I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. So I like to learn. My brain has all this information in it, but someone that has a fixed mindset, they're like, oh, that's useless. You know, I have a cousin who I love dearly. And when I started my nonprofit, I love to read. I've always loved to read, but she got me a shirt with my nonprofit name on it. And on the back of it, she put a quote, has never heard of a fact that she didn't share. Because they think it's hilarious, because I always have some little, in my mind, it's a jewel, but in other people's minds, I guess it could be annoying that I always feel like I have something to offer to a conversation. It's usually like a statistic or something, because I'm kind of nerdy that way. But understanding this, we're like, okay, how do we make this meaningful for them? And I always think in early childhood is we circle it back to the child. This morning, the training I did, we talked about vision and mission and part of it. And our vision, I don't know if you know what your organization's vision is, but my vision is to have a world where every child can go to a quality early childhood program. That's my vision. A vision is no obstacles, but my daily mission is to work with programs, and my particular area is Collin County and beyond, and help them increase their quality. So those are, components of my mission. Do you know what y'all's mission is at Avantis?
Avance. Yes.
You say it with
Yes.
such a beautiful accent.
Oh, it's because I'm Mexican. Let me pull it up real quickly. It's changing, but it is a mouthful. So give me a second.
When I do trainings, and I don't know if you do this when you do trainings, one of the things I started doing a few years ago, because a lot of the trainings I do is at the beginning of the school year, and I ask the teachers, what's your personal mission statement?
Sorry, my dog. Someone rang the doorbell.
Yeah, I have 3 dogs. They feel like it's their job to announce anybody that's walking by the house. But when I do that, I ask them, what's your personal mission? What's your daily why? You need to know your organizations, but also what's yours? Write it down, put it somewhere. So when you're having a day, if you go back to Maslow's pyramid, the hierarchy of needs, like, that bottom of the pyramid, and when we're not feeling safe or connected, you go back to that mission and say, okay, my mission is to make sure every child leaves happy. So how do I get back to that when someone spilled paint all over me and someone had an accident? And
Okay,
taking
I
a
have
big
it.
breath.
Our mission and vision is to create pathways to economic mobility for predominantly Latino families through high quality, culturally sensitive two-generation programming that ensures school readiness for young children and opportunities for parents to develop social and economical capital. We envision a world where all children and families have equitable access to resources and opportunities to reach their full potential, transforming the communities in which we live.
Awesome. What they did is they put their mission and vision, because the envision, that's what we want for this world with no limits or financial constraints. The mission, it's who we serve, what we do, and what our daily outcome is. We want our families to be financially and social emotionally ready for this crazy world that we all live in. I love that. And when you're working with programs in family homes, that's something that a lot of them, I think, because the grind is so much. They're the teacher and the cook and the janitor, and they do everything, is remember your why. Going back to remember why you started all this in the first place. And because we started late, we're not going to do this, but this is just a quick mindset quiz. So you can scan it, or I can put that link in the thing, and you can use this on future trainings that you do. But helping them evaluate, because a lot of mindset is self-reflection. It's, how am I doing this differently? Last night, I went to bed upset with my son. And it never occurred to me that that's just as bad as the feeling of going upset with your spouse. My son's 20. And I woke up this morning, and him and I had a conversation in between my 2 trainings, because I said, I was tired last night and maybe I didn't handle it as well as I should have. And he's like, I'm sorry, mommy, I shouldn't have said something, whatever he said to me. And we talked through it, but that's taken years for us to get to that, because I had a very fixed mindset that I was the parent and you listen to me and you don't have an opinion, because that's how I was raised. And it took a lot of self-reflection and growth to understand, like, that's disrespectful to him because I'm not understanding him or his needs, and giving him an opportunity to let me know. And he's actually told me that, in recent years, he wished I would have talked to him more during his teenage years, because, they push us away. And so we're like, okay, this is part of the big plan, like, for them to go off on their own, and you have adult children, teenagers and littles, so you kind of relate. But he wishes I would have went in there more. And so I really try to do that now. And that's a way for myself to be growing. So this is what the research says. So we're going to switch from what it is to what the research says, and then we're going to talk about ways we can foster this in the people that we're serving. It creates positive effects on motivation and academic performance. They've done a ton of studies, and I had a ton of studies in my notes here about students and things that they did. And every time students with the growth mindset, they performed better because it was a positive way of thinking. It creates that neuroplasticity in our brain. It reinforces it. So they're growing and they're learning. The students have a higher GPA. When it comes to adults in business situations, there's less burnout. and fewer psychological, less depression and anxiety. And with children, there's fewer behavior problems. And there's a link down there from the article that I pulled that from if you want a deeper dive into this. So if you look at this iceberg effect, it says the way we say we work. And so you have all this stuff like the work stuff, what we need to run our family home, our early childhood program, even our classroom. But then it's underneath. So the mindset, if you look, it's number 2, like right behind culture, because that's one of the biggest things that affect everything else we do. Because if our vision is to make sure every child has a quality start to life, but our mindset is very fixed, that some kids just have problems, and then in some families their parents just don't care. If we have that fixed mindset, are we going to be able to achieve the vision or help that person, the family home or whomever we're consulting or working with? This is just another example. I love the icebergs. When we're working with children, because we see the behavior, and you might have seen this already before, but then there's all this stuff going on underneath of the behavior. And understanding that family's culture and the family mindset, because that's what the child is naturally adopting when we're working with children. And we have to learn all that before we can help with behavior change. And you being an ABA therapist, you understand that. My daughter's in grad school for mental health counseling. That's something that she's looking into doing, well, play therapy as well. So I mentioned one of our objectives was the theory to change. And these are the steps in the theory to change. So when we're working with someone, we need to prepare for the change, manage the change, and then reinforce the change. So with adults, when we're thinking about this, we need to prepare them. Why is this important? With parents, when I was a director, I would send home a lot of research articles. I feel like I said stuff over and over again, but if another person said it in a research article, that's a doctor, sometimes they'd understand. And then developing an action for that change. So as consultants, there's a bunch of resources, and you probably have Avantas probably has forms when you're consulting and things like that. But that's one of the things we do, is we help them generate their goals. Like how are we going to change? And we're talking about whatever's going on in their classroom, but really it's their mindset that you can do this, because they've gotten stuck somewhere along the way in the process. And then reinforcing that and going over it. And then once it's achieved, let's have a party, right? Let's celebrate these little small victories. And these are the 8 steps, and the right over there is taken from the book Leading to Change. I'm kind of going fast to keep us on our lunch break time. So when we're doing this transformation, we need to help our people that we're working with think about, what is our current mindset now, and what is the mindset we want? We have to envision that. And these 4 little things are kind of, there's a lot of things we can pull from, is different ways of thinking. So having this attitude of gratitude, developing and living these values. And I just watched a article from Dare to Lead by Dr. Brene Brown. And that's one of her things is for a good leader is they have to live their values. Having positive affirmations, and then creating these goals with action steps. So Brian Tracy has written a lot of books, and one of his biggest things he talks about is writing your goals down. You're 40% more likely to do it. But then when you create action steps, you're 1000% more likely to do it. And then something new that I got from Terry Savall Foy is declarations. I had mine in my office, but I forgot to grab them. But this is something new. It's kind of like a vision board. And I'm going to start doing this in trainings and working with staff. So when we talk about in a training with adult learning theory and as consultants, in this network we're a part of, we want to provide the best. We want to do something hands-on. So if we had time, I would have you actually take out a piece of paper and write down, what am I declaring? So mine, for example, actually, I'm going to grab it. So I want you to think about some things that you want to declare in your own life. And I'm going to grab mine real quick. I think I just jumped over a pile of dog pee. So you probably won't be able to see it, but I didn't know if I remember it. And I just took a piece of paper, and I'm actually going to have my kids do this. One year I had them do vision boards, and they still both have their vision boards hanging in their rooms. So this was not number one on my list, and I added it the other day. I am a morning person. So when you write these declarations, you're speaking them into your life. I am a doctoral graduate. I am speaking to thousands of early childhood professionals. I am ministering to these early childhood educators. I am a best-selling author. And so some of this stuff I do, but not to a big level. And so I was reading this to my cousin. She goes, "You're a best-selling author?" I go, "I am." And then I explained to her, I'm speaking this into my life. I am healthy. I am an expert in the message that God gives me. And I am a good mom, wife, and person. And so when we see this over and over, our brain believes it. And this is how we help people with this fixed mindset get over these hurdles, because they believe, oh, I'm just not a morning person, or I'm just not flexible. That's just who I am. I believe in worksheets. That was something I talked about in the training this morning. So declaring these things, it's like an act of I'm claiming this, and these are all synonyms for declarations I put here. I'm announcing this to the world. I think I spelled announcement wrong. I'm making a proclamation, right? This is who I am, and I'm going to do it. And it may take a week or a month or years. Some of these I've been working on for years. We all live in this thing called life, and things happen. This was a little growth chart, mindset chart, like I created, just to see, like, when we're working with individuals and directors, giving them kind of a scale to help them see their own growth. So when we start to think this way, we're just recognizing our own thoughts. Are you familiar with conscious discipline? I love conscious discipline. Dr. Becky Bailey, she's the author, and she has some science, and I haven't been able to find, like, all the numbers I find are mixed, but somewhere between 30 and 70,000 thoughts a day. They're just running through our head, like billboards, Times Square. Think of all this stuff happening, all this input. But we get to fix what we're going to decide who we are. So there's a thought, oh, you're not a morning person. I'm going to throw that one out because I don't want to believe that. I want to believe I am. I'm going to get up. So just recognizing the thoughts and the ones that are fixed. That's the first step. And then start to believe you can change these, maybe, in the way I think to myself. And then think I can versus I can't. That's the beginning, right? Just understanding these basic concepts. And then we move to shifting them. So at those conscious discipline conferences with Dr. Bailey, she does this thing. So the shift on the computer, like it's that line. It used to be, I don't think they have anything, but it used to be like a line like this. So to draw everyone's attention between sessions, she goes, shift. So we're shifting attention, but it's also a pun on words. But it gets everyone's attention. So I think about that when we're shifting from these upsetting thoughts to a calmer thought, because our mind makes up stuff. That's how it works. If we don't know the answer, we make it up. So when we have these thoughts and they are upsetting or fixed that we can't change, I can change this. We do that through action, and it's daily action. We'll talk more about that. Trying those new things. The intermediate and more advanced is looking at these mistakes, because we're going to have mistakes, as opportunities to learn. Remembering that there's always more to learn when we have this adversity. That's like the core of this growth mindset, is resilience. And then understanding that power of yet, and then rewarding ourselves for that growth. Trying to keep track of time, sorry. All right, we got 7 minutes. It's the stories we tell ourselves. So if you see this once upon a time, and there's all this stuff, and that's what people with fixed mindsets tell them, and they believe these stories, and they rob us of being able to take the action that we know through brain research that can change things. So action is the key to this growth, that the center that we're looking for. We have to give them the desire to want to build these skills, challenge them, and then reward them for building the skills. And there's going to be setbacks, but getting them through that, knowing that power of yet I mentioned, praising them, and then giving that direct instruction. And this is more for children, because we can teach children this as well, because if their parent has fixed mindset, they're coming in to our school with a fixed mindset. And then when something's difficult or challenging, we teaching them, you just can't do it yet. You're going to be able to do it. I don't know if you went to Cheryl's training last week. I was going to put more about the competencies for trainers in here as I was going through, but I didn't. But here's the link. When we talk about adult learning theory, because as consultants, we want to make sure, that's why I had the video in mind, because I didn't have a video, and I was like, oh, let me put that in there for my more visual learners, because I love a good video. Obviously I have my slides for that as well. I'm talking. Normally I would have you get up and move around, but this hour goes by very shortly. And the reason we do this is to release these happy hormones. And so the happy hormones are dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and epinephrines. And these are ways that we can get these released. And if we can associate this with this transition for the people that we're working with, then it's going to be tagged in their brain as happy. So, hey, when you finish a task, let's listen to some music. You know, like I do my to-do list, and I will go add things on it that I didn't write, just so I can cross them off. Because the longer it is, the research says our brain likes that. And then showing them, like when you're having a moment of that stress, because if we don't handle that, then cortisone, which is a not so happy hormone, comes, and that creates stress. So pet an animal, right? Fill your heart with something good, because that fixed mindset doesn't feel good. So when we're thinking about rewards for this growth mindset, these are some activities that release what we call, and Dr. Becky coined the term joy juice. And I found this, that visual, and I was like, oh, that's perfect. Here are some other brain tricks when we become static or kind of go into that fixed mindset. Sorry. And I can send you these slides. So I showed you the steps to the theory of change, but these are the three things. Becoming a great learner with growth mindset is asking yourself, with that self-reflection, am I more likely to start? What is my long-term goal? So think about, what do I want at the end? And that's where you work your way back. I have a mentor for my PhD program, and I was like, okay, I want to finish by whatever date. She's like, Shela, that is too long. She's like, you're going to finish it by this date, and then work your way back and make a plan. And I was like, okay. But I needed someone to push me. And as consultants, when we're working with different teachers and directors, and we're coaching and mentoring them, we're the ones that have to push them, because they're fixed. Building that resilience where we're more likely to stick to the change. So us being their cheerleader. And then all of this keeps us and them hungry for more success. So, hey, this is just one thing. There's going to be more and more, because every time you click one of these hormones, it's like, yes, it feels good. And they're going to want more and more of it. This is from Maya Angelou. Your legacy is every life you touch. And I like to think of it as every child we touch. The video, and I'm just going to end on this, talks about obviously reflecting, but we're building muscles in the brain. And so challenges plus struggle equal growth. So opportunities to learn. It takes that practice and the time to change, and to see those results, we have to do stuff. So we have to challenge ourselves. And this teaches the teachers in the classroom. Like, I know you talked about social emotional over academic learning, which I agree with 100%. I feel like kids that are socially emotionally adjusted, the academics even out by third grade. There's research that shows that. But it's challenging to share. It's challenging to use pro-social behaviors when you're a little and you think the world revolves around you. So how we can get better is when we do the work. So having them practice, and this takes us practicing, us practicing too. I think that was my last slide. Yeah, that's how I ended. Let me stop sharing. Thank you so much. I'm going to end the recording for are you sure you want to stop the recording?